All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Matty. I am one of the growth marketing managers here at Accelo, and I've been with Accelo for a couple of years now, about 2 years. I'm really excited to be hosting today's webinar. I've been on the flip side presenting, but I haven't hosted one before, so it's a little exciting for me. We know today is going to be really jam-packed with valuable content around dashboards and reporting. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Mahlon Duke, one of our product managers here at Accelo, and honestly, the product owner behind Accelo's reports and the reports module as a whole. So Mahlon has been a part of the Accelo family for over 10 years now. And with that length of tenure comes a wealth of product knowledge, much of which he's going to be sharing with us today. So very exciting to be having Mahlon join us for another webinar. And if you've been a part of past webinars, you've definitely seen Mahlon's face before. So in terms of agenda, today's webinar is going to be focused on some of the really powerful dashboards and reports that are available to Accelo users. We'll also go through some of the premium reports that are available within our reports module. And the reports module was something that we added on last October as a premium offering for our Accelo users. So the topics that we're going to cover today kick things off with the utilization and the profitability dashboard. Two dashboards that if you're a bit of a veteran in Accelo, you've definitely seen before. And you've, I'm sure, gotten a lot of value out of those two tools. We're also going to be introducing a couple new reports that were actually just released last week. So the plan versus actual report and the missing time report. We'll also go through one of our original reports in the reports module, the project WIP report. Of course, guys, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and add them into the Zoom chat at the bottom where you were calling in from. And what we're going to do is answer as many of those as we can at the end of our session today. But do be wary, if we don't get to your question, don't worry, we will be following up with everything after the call via email. All right, so we're super excited. One final thing before we jump in, Mahlon. For everyone on the call, we're very excited to be offering you all, if you don't have the reports module add-on, you'll be getting 30 days for free at the end of the session. We'll explain how you can get access. So be wary for that, and you can take advantage of every single report that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so without further ado, Mahlon, let's jump to the next slide, and we'll jump to our first question. So Mahlon, with so much information being captured and processed every day inside of Accelo, for example, our project budgets, our dates, time logs, durations, emails, and everything else, I'm wondering what are the many or the different tools that are available for us to analyze and report on the data currently?
Absolutely. So as anyone who's used Accelo for more than a few days probably knows, with a tool as complex as Accelo, there are a few different ways that you can potentially accomplish really any goal. And that's doubly true when it comes to reporting in Accelo. We have many different tools available to you to get you the information that you need to run your business effectively. So for a quick overview of the landscape, let's take a look at what we have available. One of the first ones we have, and one that probably most of you have already seen, are our individual work insights. You'll find these on projects and you'll find these on retainers, and they break down the basic details of that particular project or retainer. A really helpful way to see just what's going on with that piece of work with a quick snapshot. Now we also have our dashboards. We're going to be looking at a couple of these later today. These are our pre-built, more visually focused tools built into Accelo that offer high-level KPIs that let you know how the whole business is performing. We also have our list tools and their exports. These are where you'll find all of the projects you're working on, all of your clients, all of your contacts, and they're really powerful tools for providing a comprehensive analysis of your work by exporting that content out and mixing and matching and slicing and dicing that data directly through Excel. And then the last way, the one that we're especially happy to show you a little bit more of today, is our new reports module, which offers visual, comprehensive reports on everything going on across your company, high and low level, to tell you exactly how your team is performing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, Mahlon. Now, I wanted to jump into one of these. You mentioned lists and exporting so that we can analyze outside of Accelo, maybe through Excel or some other CSV tool. I know that we have a brand new user interface for lists that's currently in beta, which gives our users the ability to customize the look and feel without ever leaving Accelo. For those of you on the call that may not be already exploring the list beta, Mahlon, do you mind showing us how we can toggle that on so that everyone on the call can take advantage of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to be looking at is the special tool that we internally call custom lists. It's a really powerful thing for allowing you to look at the lists you have today in Accelo for projects, retainers, and everything in between, and change and adjust the columns that you see in those lists. So if you wanted to see more specific details about your client or the project's dates, you can see that right on screen without having to export just to find it. Now, if you haven't turned it on yet, you can find that and enable that for yourself, and you can do this just for yourself if you don't want your whole team in yet, by heading over to your preferences in Accelo here in the top right. And then you'll find the option here at the bottom. Simply switch it on and don't forget to save. Once that's on, you'll find a new button here at the top to access those custom lists. That way you can continue to access the classic lists you're used to, as well as take advantage of these new lists while they're in beta.
Awesome. And I've definitely been using those lists internally, and they are incredible. So definitely give it a go. All right. The next question, Mahlon. As we all know, every business is different in so many ways. But one universal fact is that a business's staff represent both the biggest asset as well as the largest expense. So I'd really love to understand how I can break down my team's billable and non-billable time to see how well our resources have been utilized to date.
It really is a vital balancing act for every business. If you have too many staff on your bench, that's going to, of course, impact your bottom line. Salaries are going to come in and impact it. But on the other hand, if you have too few resources and too few staff, that can impact your ability to take on new projects and deliver client work and, of course, generate income. So it's really vital to balance those staffing levels against your client's actual needs. That way your staff are consistently working and generating value and not just waiting around for new work to come in. So to help with that process of keeping track of whether your team's actually being used or in some cases overused, I'd recommend that you use the Utilization Dashboard. This is one of the first ones we'll check out today. So the Utilization Dashboard that you have in front of you breaks down your team's utilization levels. And the way it does it is by using each individual person's unique work schedule. So if you have some folks who work, say, 4 days a week and only work 10 hours those days, we'll take that into account, as well as folks who are working part-time or on weekends, so that you have a more accurate picture of what their ideal utilization is. And then we'll incorporate all the work that they're doing and you're assigning to them in Accelo, so you have a more accurate idea of just how much time is available and how that time is being used. Now, this is really nice because there's no setup required. If you open this up today and you've never seen it before, this report is already going to tell you immediately how well your team is being utilized. Now, what's really powerful about this tool is that it offers some very simple filters to look at exactly what you need. When you first open it up, it'll of course be looking at just you and your information, but we can very quickly and easily add in colleagues by searching for them, by looking at specific groups in the teams, even looking at staff whom you manage. We can also look at that in a variety of breakdowns. Right now, we're looking at this week to week so that we can get more into the minutia of how the team's performing at the start of the month and at the end of the month. We can also adjust this so that rather than a weekly view, we can look at that by month.
Awesome. Now, Mahlon, digging in a little bit more, what about if we want to look at the future? How do we properly forecast our resource utilization and understand the availability or capacity of our team into the future or moving forward?
So that's really one of the big benefits of a centralized system like Accelo. We don't have to go find time that's assigned in a ticketing system or a client management system or a contract system. Everything that you're doing and assigning to your team is right here in front of you. And the utilization dashboard can start to take advantage of that. So right now, we're just looking at the time that the team is actually logged. So we're looking back at previous weeks to see what their utilization was. We can also start to forecast our resource utilization using this tool. If you'll notice, we have a couple of filters right here at the top, and all we have to do is add in that upcoming work, our scheduled meetings, our external events, committed time, auto-scheduled tasks, and even leave or PTO if you're scheduling that in Accelo, to give you a more complete view in the coming weeks and months, what you can expect your utilization levels to be. And that's really powerful when you're looking at whether you need to start hiring new staff to see whether you have availability to otherwise take on work. In this case, April and May are looking a little bit light right now.
And Mahlon, just a quick question. Where might we find this dashboard?
So you can find this dashboard, and in fact, all of the reports we're going to be talking about today in the main menu. Over here on the left, just click into reports. You'll find all of our dashboards here on the left and all of our reports here.
Awesome. Now, the utilization dashboard will be really helpful for managers in ensuring that they have the necessary resources for the work that they have planned, as well as tracking how staff have logged time against their level of capacity. But what about the dollars that the utilization represents? What are the ways that we can see the value, whether that's profit or loss, of the actual time that we're seeing here in the utilization dashboard?
So that's a really good point, right? With utilization here, we're specifically talking about time. How much time your team has available, how much time they've logged, how much time they've been assigned. So we need to take that a step further to look at the dollars behind that time. We want to check out another of our built-in dashboards, the Profitability Dashboard. Now this tool has a very similar presentation to the utilization dashboard we just saw. We've got similar filters here across the top for your various groups and for the staff you manage. And then we'll break down your team's actual profitability right here. Now that'll include both the billable value of the time that they're logging, so their billable rates, including any adjusted client rates that you may be using special to them, and the cost that their time affords you based on the cost rate that you've assigned to that team. And what's really handy is we can look at that in two ways using this handy filter here. We can look at their total available time. So if they were fully utilized, what that would be. We can also look at that based on the time that was actually logged. So incorporating that actual utilization we just saw to see what that means in a real sense. Now, one important note about this is that we are specifically using the time your team is logged and the rates associated with it. That means that's not including budgets, but is strictly based on the time.
Okay, well, that's super helpful for keeping track of how well our staff are being utilized and what that means in terms of profit or loss for the business. So thank you so much for that, Mahlon. So the dashboards have shown us that the data inside of Accelo can be used for really high-level KPI analysis, but there is so much more information around our budgets, around our tasks, around the value, and even the different specific tools and modules like sales and tickets and projects that the dashboards currently don't go really deep into. Is this what the reports module is going to be used for? And if so, what reports do we have available?
Yeah, and really that's exactly right. Dashboards like these are great for giving us high-level details so that we can check in on a particular KPI. How profitable are we and what our utilization levels are? As you need to get deeper into your numbers and the work that your team is doing, the reports module is a really powerful way to do that. So today, Reports offers more than 70 individual reports. These have KPIs, metrics, and performance statistics on everything from your clients and the way that your team is working and managing them, to your internal accounting and Accelo and the financing behind it, to your projects, your support tickets, your retainers, your tasks, and even your sales pipeline and everything in between. It's a very powerful way to look into all of these different tools.
All right. So I can tell that this is a really comprehensive list of reports. One thing that I noticed when we were just reviewing the utilization and profitability dashboards was that the numbers were all really high level and were specific to all time that was being logged, whether it was for a single user or for the team of users. Now, what I am really looking for is the work itself. I guess I'm looking for not just what we've logged and forecasted to log, but how much of what we originally planned was actually done.
Absolutely. So for you project managers in the room, and for those of you who work with your project managers closely, you'll know that they have many different responsibilities. They're setting budgets, they're scheduling work, sometimes they're even invoicing and interacting directly with clients. But at the end of the day, really their most important responsibility is ensuring that their projects are profitable. Now, to do that, what they really need to do is ensure that the teams who are working on their projects aren't just working on the projects, but are working according to the plan so that we're staying on budget, we're staying on schedule, and making sure that work is done according to the important budgets and profit forecasts that we've set up. So to find more information on that, to give you very clear details on what was planned and what your team is actually doing against that plan, we have a special report available that, as Matty mentioned, we just recently released called Planned versus Actual. So this report brings in all of the work that you've assigned to your team, from projects, retainers, tickets, and everything else, and brings it in here to this simple tool to give you an overview of what you had expected and assigned to your team, what you'd planned for them to work on, and what they actually ended up doing versus that, their actual entries. The report here breaks that down in both dollars and value here on the left, and the hours which those tasks represent. So that you can see how those two differ when you have, say, varying billable rates coming into play and different time estimates. The tool's very powerful because what it gives us is a very simple high-level summary of what we had planned to work on. During this time period, there was 222,000 that we had planned to perform. It tells us what we actually did instead. In this case, only 19,000. We're pretty far below what we had expected to be logging. And then we bring that all together in a very simple percentage so that you can at a glance see how your team's performing in the term of variance. In this case, our variance is negative. We are under what we had planned to do. In many cases, that can be positive if we had, say, budgeted for a lot more time or dollars, but we show it here so that you can get an insight into how that is performing. Now we'll take that variance and look at it in a couple of different ways in which it can affect your team's work. The first way we do that is over time here with our simple bar graph so that we can see month to month what we had planned to perform and what we actually perform, so that you can start to identify over time trends in how it's performing. In this case, we can see that the actual work we're doing is pretty well consistent here at the bottom. But our planned amounts are significantly over that, and even in February, about double what our norm would be. This lets us know that we're planning just more work than our team is realistically going to be performing, and we may need to take those budgets back in and make them a little bit more conservative for the future. Now, when we're looking at these amounts, there are, of course, important contributors that lead to those. You have staff members working on them, you have clients influencing your decisions. And one of the most effective ways to get that variance under control is to find who those key contributors are and take action to improve them. So to help with that process, we include two leaderboards here. The first is based on the people who are working on these tasks to see who is consistently going over budget or under budget when we're performing really well, so that you know who we need to follow up with, perhaps assign less work if they're simply overloaded or overutilized, and help split out that work. In this case, we can see that Zach here is going pretty significantly over his estimates. He's 36% over budget on average, whereas Aaron's a little bit closer. They're only 4% over, just a rounding error at that point. But as much of an impact as your staff can have on your budget levels and their profitability, clients can have as much, if not more, of an impact. If you have clients who are just dragging their feet on decisions, clients who want extra work and are making scope change requests left and right that, of course, they don't pay for, it can be crucial to see where that's coming from, to see who your clients are, how they're influencing you, and to see if you are over-servicing some clients, or more importantly, under-servicing important clients. And so we present a similar breakdown here. In this case, our most over budget client is only typically over by 3%. We're doing pretty well there. That's about where we would want to be. Meanwhile, another of our clients is almost completely under budget. That's a good sign that maybe our work is delayed and we're just not doing any of the work that we had planned. Hopefully that's on the client, but it's something that we may want to be checking into as part of, say, our weekly budget review meeting. Hey, we're way under what we thought we'd spend. Why? And remember, we offer that breakdown not just by the dollars here on the left, but by hours here on the right as well. That's really important if you have variable billing rates, because this provides a more consistent insight into the work that's planned and the work that your team is actually doing.
All right. Well, thank you, Mahlon. Now, what about if I want to look at specific projects for a particular client, or maybe work that's managed by a single project manager? How might I go about finding that information?
Yeah. So one of the things we talked about earlier in our dashboards is how we're looking at high-level KPIs for the entire business. In the report we're looking at right now, that's kind of what we're seeing. We're looking at all the work we've planned for all of our projects, all of our retainers, all of our staff members and clients as well. With our reports, we can offer more robust and more detailed filters that allow us to look at specific areas of the business. So you'll find them at the top here of every single report in Accelo. And they'll let us look down at some of these more specific areas of work. So for example, we saw that one of our clients was just being significantly underserved earlier on. We can use the report now to focus exclusively on their work to find out a little bit more about whether we just have one really small month this month or how that's changing. In this case, we can see that for February, we were right on our plan. That's just where we want to be. We're on our budget. But March we've planned a significant amount of work, $34,000 worth, but we've only done about $80 worth. Now, granted, it's only the 11th of the month, but that can already start to show us where we're falling behind in our work. And again, looking at who the big contributors are. It looks like Alex, in this case, hasn't done any of their assigned work just yet. Now, remember, you'll find a wide array of different filters and tools that you can use here at the top. With this particular report, the ones I'd recommend focusing on are the kind of work, which will let you look at just projects, for example, since they can be so different in scope from other types of work. The type of work as well, so you can focus on your web design projects, your SEO management, and just focus on comparing apples to apples. And lastly, of course, looking at specific projects and retainers. That's really crucial when you have those long, complex, overarching projects that run for 6 months, a year and a half, and you just need to see how we're doing there. And don't forget that you can use our date filters to look at longer ranges. So if we wanted to see how we've been performing for the entire year for this client, we can back out and see that whole history and see where we have work assigned and where we're lulling with engagements with this client.
Love it. Okay, so if plan versus actual is such an important report for tracking work, what would you say is another really popular and valuable report to be using alongside it?
Yeah, so plan versus actual here is really useful and powerful for showing us just what we'd planned and what was done, so we know whether we're on track. When it comes to projects, of course, we have very important budgets and deadlines that we need to be keeping track of. And sometimes we just need to focus on those basic details. Am I over budget? Am I going to stay on budget? And are we on schedule? That's an important one to be checking in on regularly to ensure that you're staying on those budgets. So this is one of our most popular reports and one of my favorites as well, because it's a really powerful tool for basic details we need to ensure that we're staying profitable. That's our project WIP report. Now, one of the reasons I like this report so much is because it offers very simple visual information on how we're performing, because it lets us know right here at the top how our budgets are performing. We're well under our budgets, perfect. How that pertains to our time budgets as well. Again, if you have significantly variable billing rates, this is huge. And how we're tracking in our profit. I like to call these the Friday afternoon visuals. When it's Friday afternoon and you're just done with work for the week, but you need to make sure that you're on budget, it's very easy to jump in, see green numbers, and know you're good to take off for the weekend. And with the WIP report, we have not just how you're performing today with your current budgets, we'll also incorporate your forecasts. So as your team are updating their estimates, as we're adjusting times and potentially going over, we can give you an insight here into how you're likely to look at the conclusion of your project. In this case, again, we're looking good and we can take off for the weekend. We're only going to be 68% of our budget used. That's most of our time, so we're using some cheaper resources than we might have initially thought. And again, our profit's looking good. We're a little bit higher in profit than we had initially expected. And with the project WIP report, we do, of course, break down the details for individual projects down below. So when you need to get into more specifics, when you're having that weekly budget review meeting, you can quickly find that information without having to go digging through other places and making calculations. It's all right here with convenient color coding to tell you where things may need more attention. And don't forget, of course, we have filters available to look in to specific types of projects, if we're, say, just reviewing our SEO projects for the week, as well as for your projects, if you just need to focus on yours and exclude your colleagues' projects for a moment.
Okay, so the plan versus actual and the project WIP reports are all based on the budgets and the time that's being logged. But to make sure that these reports have the most accurate data, Well, first, we need to ensure that every team member is logging 100% of their time, marking it correctly every single time. What can I do to ensure that time is being logged correctly so the data is always absolute?
Yeah, there's a classic mantra in the data community, the idea of garbage in, garbage out. If your team's not reporting what time they're logging, if budgets aren't updated, then you don't really have a good idea of whether you are profitable. And so it's really vital that your team is logging their time and that it's accurate in Accelo so that we can give you these estimates and KPIs. Now, Accelo has many tools to help make that process as easy and painless as possible. There's automated prompts and tools like the weekly and daily timesheets. Our calendar sync helps ensure that we don't forget meeting time, but even the most diligent staff members from time to time are going to forget to log their time. It happens to the best of us. Holiday weekends, busy Mondays, there's many reasons you might forget. But what we want to ensure with Accelo is that you and your managers are empowered so that you can be aware of when that's happened and work with your team to make sure that that time is logged and that as a result, your budgets are accurate and that your billing is accurate. Most importantly, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that you're getting paid for the work that you're doing. So to help with that, we recently released a brand new report focused on giving managers information on where time may have been missed so that they can work with their teams to really quickly and easily follow up to be sure that that time is logged. And that is our new missing time report. So this report gives us a really simple and straightforward overview of missed time. We'll provide you a simple summary here at the top. In this case, we're missing a total of 648 hours, quite a few. And then we'll show you exactly where that time came from. In this case, Zach, again, missed quite a few hours. He's missing 80 total. And so we know we need to be following up with him, Nick, Whitney, Lissy, and several other of our staff members. Now, when you're following up with your team, it's of course easy to just say, hey, Zach, you forgot some time. But Zach's is likely to remember when that time was logged as you were. So we want to make it easy for you to tell Zach, not just that, hey, you missed 80 hours, but when he missed those. So he can very quickly jump back to say March 8th and log his time. We make that easy to see here with our graph here to show when that time is missing. This, of course, shows for all of our team members. So we can see if, say, there was a holiday and we just forgot to put the PTO time in for the team, or we're just consistently forgetting things, say on Fridays, where we're just always trying to get out a little bit early. And again, summarizing that down below so that when we are reaching out to the team, we have that very easy way to follow up with them. We could say that, hey, Aaron, on the first you missed 3 hours, on the third you missed 6 hours. Can you please follow up and make sure that those hours get logged? And he knows exactly where to find that time and log it. So he doesn't waste more time finding it than was missed in the first place. And that's, of course, built just like our utilization dashboard, using each team member's unique availability, the days and times they're available, their PTO time, and the time that they've logged.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for that, Mahlon. So today we've seen a range of our dashboards and reports, but for those of us that are just really getting started with reports, where would you recommend we first kick off or get started?
So there are a couple of ways to get started with reports in Accelo. This is a really helpful way when you're first starting with the system or looking at reporting to get some basic reports under your belt so you can start to extract meaningful data to drive better data-driven decisions. So the way I'd recommend starting is to first identify the top reports that are going to be the most useful for you. We've seen 3 today that if you're unsure where to start are where I'd recommend starting. Use the utilization dashboard to see, do I have enough staff to do the work that's coming up? Use plan versus actual to see of that work we assigned, is it actually being done the way that we expected? And of course, use that project WIP report to see, are we on budget? Are we making money? How much money are we making? And for those reports, as powerful as they can be, one of the things that you want to do is make sure you're setting a reasonable schedule for actually using them. Clicking and refreshing a report every 10 minutes can be as detrimental as not having any data. So set a schedule that'll allow you to take advantage of that data when it's actually going to be useful for your team. So I recommend doing that at the end of each week, when your team has all their time in for the week and all the updates are there for you to use, to see, how did we do on our schedules this week? How close to our budgets were we? And of course, pull those before relevant meetings. If you're going into your budget review meetings or your steering committee meetings, it's going to be important to be able to quickly answer, we're at this percentage of budget, we're on track with this, and we have risks for those other projects. So schedule out your own reports so that you're using them when that data is going to be useful for you. And lastly, when you're looking at these reports, there's going to be important information on how well you're performing, where you're performing well, and where there are potential issues. One of the most powerful things you can do with Accelo is that you can simply take action on that work. Because we're not just showing you that we're at, say, 50% of budget. We're showing you that you're 50% of budget on a new SEO project for your Delta clients during this time period. And because that's built right into Accelo, you can find built-in links to go directly from that project you're seeing in a report off to the project itself. So you can immediately investigate what's going on and take action to address it directly. You'll find those built-in links in the table of details at the bottom of every report in Accelo. Just find the project or missing time or staff member and their tasks that you want to look into and click them. We'll take you right off to begin the next step working on it.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you've discussed with us today, Mahlon. For those of you on the call that maybe don't have access to reports yet or are interested in being a part of the 30-day free trial, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information here. So firstly, everyone should have access to the reports module, and this will include 10 complimentary reports on top of all of the dashboards that are already available. Now, there's been a couple questions that have come through. Maybe some people cannot access certain dashboards. That's likely a permission restriction. So be sure to speak to your admin to get access to the utilization or profitability dashboard. And then there's been another question about being unable to see the reports altogether on the left panel. Now, that's probably a region-specific thing where you are potentially being hosted outside of our main hosting area. I would recommend reaching out to success@accelo.com and they'd be able to help you out with that question. And that one was for you, Michael. So as I said, the 10 complimentary reports should be available to all just on that left panel where Mahlon showed earlier. If you are interested in accessing all of the reports, and that includes the 70 unique reports, you will need the reports license or the reports module add-on. So if you're viewing the reports and you see one that's got a little lock on it, if you click that, or you may need your admin to select that, that'll take you to the section where you can sign up for the reports license. And that does include the 3 reports that we covered today. So the plan versus actual, the project WIP, and the missing time report. But as I mentioned at the start, if you are interested in trialing all reports, that includes everything we've covered today, then you will be able to get access by clicking the link or going to surveys.accelo.com/S3/reports. It's a short form that goes straight to our success team, and I'm putting the link in the chat right now so you can all just easily click that. That will go to our success team and they can get you set up within 24 hours. So feel free to sign up for that. Otherwise, you can always email us at success@accelo.com, and that goes to the same team of CSMs. All right. So on the next slide, we do also, of course, offer any assistance that you're looking for through our professional services team. So our experienced consultants are here to help navigate even the most complex situations and accelerate your success. And this does, of course, include how to leverage and utilize Accelo's dashboards and our new reports. So if you do have any questions, if you're interested in having a little bit of support by one of our experienced team members, then feel free to contact us at success@accelo.com or reach out to your specific CSM. And we'd be able to arrange a quick or 30-minute scoping call to understand what you are having any challenges or what your particular scenario is, and propose a way to go forward with our professional services team. Of course, we'd be more than happy to help, and we want to ensure that you all are very successful with Accelo. Okay, we have a ton of Q&A coming through. So I'm going to be jumping around and trying to get the best questions. So Mahlon, I'm going to start at the top. Well, I've just answered that one actually. So we love our view of profitability. However, our costs differ for the same staff member working on different types of work. Does Accelo allow for costing at different rates depending on rate billable to the client? For example, Beth costs us $30 per hour when doing accounts payable. Beth costs us $40 per hour when doing month-end close. Both are currently retainers, but at different hourly rates to our clients. We haven't figured out how to implement this, so it causes our costs to be slightly incorrect. And just before you jump in, Mahlon, that is a pretty detailed question. We may need to pass it to our success team, but give it a go if you'd like.
Certainly. So Matty raises an excellent point there. Our success team is going to be able to help you set up the intricacies of this. In general, what we're thinking of here is a variable cost rate. So we're paying our staff a different rate depending on the work they're doing. In Accelo today, we only use one standard cost rate for hourly work. So we don't have a built-in place to handle the variable rate. We have a couple of best practices we recommend there. One is using a blended rate. So looking at an average of those staff members to give you a ballpark figure for how that's performing. It sounds from your question like that's what you're doing today. And so that's a really effective way to give yourself an idea of how accurate that is. Your next best option is to take out that cost rate altogether. For that person, leave it at 0. And the reason would be that it will give you a clear indication that this is someone who has a variable cost rate. And you can use that when you're looking at their costs to calculate it more accurately based on the rates involved. So if we're looking at, say, our plan versus actual, we can see that costs are 0 for that person, and instead look at the work they're doing, whether that is accounts payable or accounts receivable, and make some back of the napkin menu calculations based on that value.
Okay. Christine asked a question here, which I touched on just before, but I just want to clarify one more time that the custom list screen beta customized list screen beta is enabled, but I'm not seeing utilization dashboard or anything else in terms of dashboards. So just want to clarify that one. The list screens beta is a slightly different method for reporting or analyzing your information. That is almost a redesign of our existing lists. Compared to the dashboards, which you may be unable to access, that's likely a permission thing. So a reminder, speak to your admin, and they should be able to get you access to all of those dashboards that you're currently missing. Mahlon, we do have a great question here by Troy. Can we obtain a list of all reports with descriptions of them, which detail the main differences? And this would be great for a reference aid.
So absolutely. If you look at our website today, we have help guides written for every report that's available in Accelo. And we'll have that grouped up by the different categories as well. So that if you're focused on, say, support ticketing or client finance, you can find quick, easy descriptions of the reports. We'll include some common use cases for them as well to give you some idea of why you might want to use one report over another. And you can access that anytime directly from the help site. So I'd recommend checking that out. Now, if you're unsure or the descriptions aren't quite clear enough, don't hesitate to reach out to our success team at success@accelo.com. They can help clarify any questions you have and help recommend the right report for your situation if you're ever unsure.
Absolutely. And I've just linked that URL into the chat as well. So anyone on the call, feel free to click that. All right. Are there any views that cut across retainer, project, and ticket data, all combined into a single view by customer versus separate per work type?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll find many different reports that bring together all of your projects, tickets, and retainers, all the work you're doing in Accelo. Really, that's a universal truth of these reports. If we don't specifically say that this report deals with just tickets or just retainers, then it is including everything. For example, in the reports we saw today, plan versus actual includes projects, tickets, and retainers, while project WIP, of course, is just for projects. And if you're looking specifically at the types of work, many of our reports will include a breakdown of those to show you leaderboards for statistics on how each type is performing. For example, client profitability is a really powerful one for that. You'll also find in each report filters to look at specific types so you can compare and contrast one type at a time.
Fantastic. We have a question here from Catherine, and I think this was referring just before the missing time report was introduced, but Catherine asks, you said something about weekly prompts. What and where are they? So I think this was in terms of being able to find time or be prompted or using Accelo to, I guess, log time or find any time that was not yet logged.
Certainly. So what we're thinking of in that case is something that's built in to the weekly timesheet. So the weekly timesheet will include prompts on each day for each piece of work where you have tasks assigned that should have been worked that time, where you have meetings that you haven't put in your time and notes for yet, and that's including both internal meetings that might appear as external events and client meetings where we can link that to a specific client for you. So that'll appear as small icons and prompts below each day that work was assigned. And they make it easy to log that time if you've, say, forgotten a meeting or you're just wanting to, at the end of the day, walk down the list of work you had and quickly put in your notes. They save a lot of time finding what you were working on and remembering how much time that should have been if you don't remember if it was 1 hour or 3 at the end of the day.
Great. Really simple question here, and it's probably more so for me. We will be recording, we are recording, and we will be sharing this with everyone after the call. But if you are interested in accessing any of our webinars, just put in the link in the chat as well. Every single best practice webinar that we've ever ran is shared currently under our video best practices. If you scroll to the very bottom, you'll see all of the most recent live training series webinars that we've been rolling out over the last few months. All right, we have a question here from Troy. Do you offer an ad hoc report generation?
Yeah, so the reports that you're seeing in Accelo today are all pre-built, focusing on areas that we know are important to businesses like yours. When you're looking for reports outside of that, on more focused or more customized topics, we don't offer those today. That is where our various lists are going to come in handy when you need to slice and dice and analyze data in a way that's unique to your business. So remember, use those lists, particularly our custom lists, to find and export those to Excel for further examination. Now, if you do have something that you're using and you think might be relevant for other users, please head over to our ideas forum. That's ideas.accelo.com. That's where we take in feedback on ways in which we can improve the system to better meet your needs. And post your needs there. That way we can look at getting that incorporated into one of these standard reports to help not just you, but all the businesses who, like you, are leveraging Accelo to improve their business.
Fantastic. Good question here. Does planned work within the plan versus actual report take into account retainer periods that have not yet been created? Or do we need to, do the retainer periods need to be created in order to look into the future?
So that's a great question. The plan versus actual report exclusively uses existing work. So in the case of retainer periods, the period would need to be created today in order for us to look at what we've planned for that work to be done. Now, if you're looking particularly at retainers and you want to forecast what's coming up, I'd recommend checking out the Retainer Revenue Forecast Report. That one's explicitly focused on retainers and in the future to see what revenue you have coming, what that looks like from a profitability standpoint, and the tasks and work associated with that. So it can be really helpful in tandem report to use with something like plan versus actual.
Cool. My missing time report is only showing 3 out of my 12 employees. How do I get the rest in there?
So missing time will only show you staff who have missing time. In that case, that's very positive. Only 3 of your staff have missing time to show.
Easy. When looking at the plan versus actual, can you look at billable only? So we schedule a lot of internal work and we'd like to we'd like the report to exclude any of that non-billable time.
So the way that I'd recommend handling that, if you have special internal work that you need to keep separate from others, is using a different project type, project or retainer or ticket type. That'll of course let you set a specific process for that work. If you have internal approvals or other things that need to happen, it'll also let you in tools like our reports to filter them out. So you can very easily catch and exclude them based on their type. Now you can do that based on the client as well, but it's just a little bit easier to highlight specific types of work and exclude them instead.
Okay. Can I export data from the reports?
Absolutely. You may have noticed as we were clicking around a little bit, anytime you click on a visual in reports, you'll see a little 3-dot menu appear in the corner. That's for every pie chart, every bar graph, every KPI, and every details table. If you click that little 3-dot menu, you'll see a button to export its contents. That'll pull that information directly out of Accelo into a CSV for you to further analyze, slice, and dice as you find that you need. And again, that's available for every visual, so you can look specifically at its contents, depending on what you're interested in seeing.
Great. We have a question here. How do we take advantage of the 1-month free trial? So a reminder, you can reach out directly to success@accelo.com, reach out to your specific CSM, your success manager, or you can go to this form, which I'm just linking again in the chat, and fill in your details and we'll automatically set it up for you. So that's lots of different ways that you can get that going. Quick question here, Mahlon. We are getting close to time, but what permissions do I need to access reports?
So because there is so much and so much vital information in each of our reports, we're extremely conscious of the confidentiality around those. So each report is going to have unique permission requirements to access it. For example, our project WIP report is going to require that you have a project's license. And our missing time report is going to require that you have, well, no special requirements, just to see missing time. To find the permissions that you need for each report, check out our help guides. That's where you'll find the use cases for why you want to use that report, details on its contents, and clear details on the permissions required to view it, from product licenses to financial permissions to your access level.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. Well, this brings us pretty much to time. So we're going to finish up there. If we didn't get to your question, and there were a couple, don't worry, we will be emailing you after the session and responding directly. So please, we look forward to you all joining us for our next webinars. We do have quite a few coming up, actually. So one actual thing which I'd recommend, towards the end of the session. Once we close the webinar, you will be prompted with a survey. Within that survey, you can actually give us some information and any ideas on what you'd like to have covered in future webinars. So as I said, we have a bunch of them already scheduled, and you will be the first to know because you've attended this one. But thank you all for joining. Please touch base if you are interested in accessing the 30-day free trial, or if you do have any questions, contact us at support@accelo.com or contact us at success@accelo.com if you're interested in accessing the reports today. All right, well, thank you all so much. Have a great rest of the day or evening, depending on where you're calling from. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.